Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita. All of you hopefully are joining in the last few weeks also. So last time we were discussing chapter 2, text 13. And the text 13, it talk about what is that verse? It says, so the verse is about as the living entity passes within this body from boyhood to youth to old age. Similarly, the soul at the time of death passes into another body. And a sober person is not bewildered by such a change. So that is chapter 2, text 13. So what is the principle Krishna is teaching there? He is saying that one should not get bewildered because of just 1 minute. So one should not get bewildered because of the change of this body. So dehino asmin yatha dehe komaram yovanam jara tatha dehantara praptir dhiras tatrana muhyati. So a sober person is not bewildered. Now in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna is teaching us that principle by just some theory, right? In Bhagavad Gita, which is extension of Vedas. So Vedas speak based on theory, but there in Purana, the same things are explained based on some stories. So any story which talk about this principle of the soul, it leaves the body and goes into another body. It transmigrate from one body to another body, which we know as reincarnation, right? So reincarnation is when somebody is born again. So the soul accepts another body. How many of you have heard the story of King Chitraketu? You can raise hand in the...
Prabhuji, I haven't.
You haven't? Okay. Anybody who has heard the story of King Chitraketu? Just raise hand in the Zoom call. Okay. So far nobody. So I assume you haven't heard. So actually, to learn this principle of the soul and reincarnation, I'm going to relate a story on this principle. So once there was a king named Chitraketu, and he had many wives. As in the old time, kings were eligible to marry many wives to give shelter to many women. So he had so many wives, but still he did not had any son, any child. So he used to be very morose, very sad that I don't have a son who will be my next descendant to take care of my kingdom. So one day, Narad Muni, along with Dangira Rishi, they visited King Chitraketu. And seeing the condition of King Chitraketu, Narad Muni asked, "Why are you so sad?" He said, "I don't have any son. That's why I am sad, because there is nobody to take over my kingdom after me." And he requested Narad Muni, "Please bless me that I may get a son." And Narad Muni said, "Maybe this is the plan of the Lord, whatever is best for you. That's why you don't have a son." But Chitraketu insisted, "No, please do something that I may be able to get a son." So Narad Muni and Angira Rishi, they blessed King Chitraketu, but they told him that you will get a son, but that same son will become the cause of your happiness also, and he will also be the cause of your distress. And King Chitraketu did not pay much attention. He was just so overjoyed hearing that, yes, I will get a son. But because that son was going to be the cause of happiness and the cause of distress, the son was named as Harsha Shoka. Harsha means joy, Shoka means lamentation, sadness. So Harsha Shoka. So this small child, he grew old, 3-year old, and he was so much loved by his father and mother. But now all the other queens of King Chitraketu, they became envious of this child and the wife of the king who through whom this child was born. Because all the other queens started thinking, now king is spending most of his time with the mother of this child. He does not spend any more time with us. So they become very envy and they wanted to kill this small child. So they made a plan to kill this child. And they, once this child was playing, they gave him something to eat, which was mixed with poison. So the child, he ate that and he died. So after some time, the mother of the child came and seeing that her son is not moving, not speaking, not doing anything, she became worried. She started to cry. And King Chitraketu came there. They all started to cry. They came to know their son is no longer alive. He is dead. So King Chitraketu became very morose. And at that time, Narad Muni again came back there. Narad Muni and Angira Rishi. They said, why are you crying? He said, because of your mercy, I got this son, but now this son is dead. That's why I'm crying. And Narad Muni told him, I already told you, this son will be the cause of your happiness and he will be the cause of your distress also. And King Chitraketu said, no, please do something, bring him back to life. Please make him alive. So Narad Muni, to show his mercy on Chitraketu, to teach him the lesson, they brought the son back to life. And as the son came back to life, King Chitraketu said, oh, my dear son, where have you gone? We were so afraid, we were so sad. And that son, he started speaking to King Chitraketu in a very philosophical way. He said, who are you? Who am I? Why are you crying? You are calling me as your son and you are saying you are my father. Which father? You are my father from which life? I have had so many lives earlier. I had so many parents, fathers and mothers earlier. You are my father from which life? So the son, he started speaking like that. And King Chitraketu came to his senses that, oh, I was so much attached, thinking this life, this body is all in all. This is the only life. Actually, this life is not one and all. There are life after death. So this is what this verse of Bhagavad Gita is teaching us. See, the Puranas, they give us stories to teach us the same philosophy. But Bhagavad Gita, in brief, Lord Krishna is telling that message to Arjuna. Why are you lamenting, thinking you have to kill your grandfather Bhishma, Guru Drona, all your cousins, relatives, friends? Ultimately, this body is not everything. The living entity does not die. After this body is finished, the living entity moves on to another body. So Arjuna, Krishna is telling, Dehino asmin yatha dehe komaram yovanam jara. Tatha dehantara praptir dhiras tatrana muhyati. So one should not lament because of the death of this body. This body is just temporary. And what is the next verse Krishna is teaching? So in the next verse, Krishna gives another wonderful message. Krishna says, if you are reading the verse together, or I can share my screen and let me try to open. So the next verse is Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkada agma apaino nityastam titikshasva bharata. Yes, in just 1 minute, I'm still opening. Okay, so let me share my screen. Okay, hopefully you are able to see my screen. So next verse, Krishna is telling, Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkada agma paino nityastam titikshasva bharatah. O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance and of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course of time are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer season. They arise from sense perception, O son of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. So this is also very important verse, a very important message for everybody, be it a small child or a young adult person. Everyone can learn something from this verse to apply in our lives. Matra sparshas tu kaunteya. So shitoshna sukha dukkhada. So all this happiness and distress which come in our life, they are like the winter and summer season, right? As the summer and winter, they come and go. They don't stay permanently. So same way, the happiness and distress in our life, it doesn't stay permanently. They arise because of sense perception. And what is Krishna saying? That try to tolerate that. Titikshasva. Titikshasva means just try to tolerate. So that is very important. How many of you have felt that sometime you are happy and again another time you are sad? Right? I know you are all on mute, but you can raise hand in the Zoom. Everybody feels that sometime we are happy, sometime we are sad. But this happiness and sadness does not stay forever. Anybody want to give an example when you were feeling happy or sad, and what did you do at that time? Let's take a couple of examples. Okay, Mohan.
I feel happy when I get to play with my sister and when I eat my favorite food that my mom cooks for me with all her love. And I feel sad when I get hurt or when somebody hurts me, when they scold me, or when I hurt them, I also feel hurt.
Yeah, so there are times we feel happy and there are times we feel sad. But now when you are feeling happy, does that time stays forever?
No.
So you are liking some food, right, which your mother cooked, so that time you're feeling happy. But as soon as your tummy is full, that same food does not give any more enjoyment, isn't it?
Yes.
So that happiness does not stay forever. So once your stomach is full, if somebody is forcing you to eat more and more and more and more, that same food which were giving you happiness earlier will become the cause of your sadness, distress also. Okay, anybody else? Any example? I see Sunaina.
Yeah, that's me because I'm attending this on my mom's phone.
Okay, so what example do you have?
Well, something makes me happy when Well, when sometimes I can watch TV with my brother and my favorite movie again and again. My mom lets me do that.
Yeah, so
And
when you are watching your favorite cartoon or TV serial show or something, you're very happy. But when you are told to turn it off, then you become sad. No, I don't want, I want to see more, I want to watch more.
yeah, but
And
sometimes at the end there's a little song, and so I asked her to dance. I asked her to keep it on so that I can dance to the song, but she keeps turning it off.
yeah, so it causes you sadness, right?
Yeah, not really. It doesn't really make me cry, but yeah, just a little upset.
Yeah, okay, good. Any examples? So I'm going to discuss some other important point after I
Yeah,
hear some of your example.
sometimes when it makes me sad, my brother kind of gets into my stuff and he starts playing with them, and I don't want him to play with them.
Okay, Sanvi.
I like to be happy when I play because I like playing with my friends that are in my neighborhood.
So when the children are playing, they are very happy. But when they are told to come back home, sit down and study, then they feel very unhappy, isn't it?
No, I kind of like to study, and
Okay.
like my mom usually lets me play until sunset because it gets dark after sunset. That's the time which I get sad, and so does my friend that plays with
Yeah,
me.
because then you know now my time of playing is done. Now I have to come back home.
Yeah, so I have to come back home, or then I'll get
Okay.
scolded.
All right. So we heard few examples of some of you, right? So everybody feels happy or sad at some time or another. But now what is Krishna saying? That one should try to tolerate that. One should not feel happy or sadness forever, thinking, oh, why did this happen? Why I have to stop playing, or why I have to stop watching TV? Because happiness and distress are both the aspects of life, and we have to accept both. Whatever the situation come, one should tolerate that. For example, if a child is running, right, while running the child falls down and gets hurt. Maybe there are some scraps on the knee or the elbows, so there are some minor injuries are happening, and the child, if they just keep lying there and crying and crying and crying, what will it do? So while running they were very happy, but as soon as they fell down, now you are crying, you are in distress. But what one should do is, rather than waiting or rather than thinking, or somebody will come and try to massage me or lift me up, right, depending on your friends or your parents, for that one should try to tolerate these minor things which happen in life, because happiness and distress both are the part of life. And for parents also, right, it applies to parents also. When little something happened with the child, parents become too concerned about the children, they rush towards them to pick them up, to give them support. But what does that do? Those kind of things make the child more and more dependent on them. Then the child is always thinking, next time again this thing happen, the child is thinking, oh, my mom is going to come running to me, or my dad is going to come running to me, they will pick me up. So they get that sort of mentality of being dependent on them. So after that, even when they grow up old, any small problem comes, they look towards their parents. Maybe our parents will solve the problem for us. They even don't try to handle their problems or their situations. They become too much dependent, that they just look towards them, that somebody will come and solve our problem for us. So one should not become too much dependent. One should learn how to deal with both situations, happiness and distress. Slowly, slowly, one should try to deal with these situations. So it applies to everybody. When the children are playing, they're happy. But when it's time of exams, they cannot go and play. They have to spend more time in studying. Then they are feeling very sad. Oh, why I have to study? Why does this exam ever come? We don't want exams. We don't want the assignments or homeworks. We just want to enjoy, right? Our mentality is to always enjoy. But one should remember, happiness does not stay forever. That is the nature of this world. One cannot be happy forever. So one should try to tolerate. So how many of you will remember this word? Titikshva. Titikshaswa. Titikshaswa means to tolerate. Okay, let's see if any questions so far. I see one hand raised. Okay, that's down. Rupesh.
So I have an example for happiness and sadness.
Okay.
So first, when it's your birthday, you feel so happy, and after that day is over, you want to enjoy so more, and you'll feel sad.
Yes, because we want to be happy always. We want everybody to be around us, and we want everybody to cheer us up, right? So we want that thing to continue forever. So when it is the day of your birthday, you are, because everybody is celebrating with you, they are treating you so nicely, you are very happy. But as soon as that day is over, now they may not be having exact same behavior or same celebration attitude, then you feel sad. So that is the nature. Happiness and distress, they continue, they keep coming and going, like the summer and winter season, like the night and day. So after night there is always day, and after day again night going to come. So same way, happiness and distress, the time of enjoyment and the time of sadness, they also keep coming in our life. And one should accept that, and accept it with full heart, actually, that is part of life. I should not feel bothered about that. I should continue with my duty, my responsibility. Okay, anybody else has a question?
Anayana. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't have much of a question. It's kind of like a suggestion.
Okay.
So in a book, I got it from the temple one day when I went to the temple someday, like a long time ago. And I got a book and I read it, and it said that if you read the 8th chapter, you can go back to Lord Vishnu. So I think today I was starting to think that I'm gonna read the 8th chapter as a daily routine. So I suggest that everybody can have a daily routine like that, or reading a different chapter of the Bhagavad Gita every day.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you want to see that book?
Yeah, we will see that at the end of the class.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I see somebody else also has a question. You can unmute.
Yeah, Adishri.
I just wanted to say how you can feel sad sometimes. Like, feel sad when you had a nice day and you want to still play, like even though it's night, then you feel sad.
Yeah, we already discussed that one, right?
Yeah.
Because kids like to play, so they want to continue to play. But when they are told to come back home, they don't want to come and they feel sad. Why are we asked to come back home? So there are many examples like that. So all of the kids feel like that. So this happiness and distress, they continue to go on. But in the next verse, what is Krishna telling further? That if somebody is able to tolerate this situation, then he can be peaceful in the life. If you want to become peaceful in life, then you need to tolerate this happiness and distress. And then you are eligible to go back to Krishna actually. So for example, one should be focused on what is my goal, right?
Yeah.
So if somebody is traveling from one place to another place and they know that they need to reach that other place, no matter what, they need to reach that place. Now on the way, while going to that place from place A to place B, in the middle, they come across two roads. One road is very smooth, very nice. And on that path, maybe there are some nice gardens, some rest areas. So that one junction, on that junction, one road goes towards that area where there are nice gardens, junctions and all. One can go easily and enjoy something. But on the other road, which is actually taking that person to this its destination, that road has a lot of potholes, bumps, that road is broken along the way. What should that person do? Which road that person should take?
It should still take the one it has to take.
Yeah, so one has to still take the road which takes it to the destination. No matter how bumpy or how bad the road is, at least that road is taking him to the destination. There may be another road, another path, which is very looking good, right? It has many wonderful things on the way, but then it's a complete distraction. It does not lead to the right destination. One person may go on that road, but he will be lost. So what is the point of taking that sort of road? So that is how the things happens in our life, right? So for the kids, let's say we talk about studies. So you know, for you, it is very important to study. When it is a time for your final exams, you need to study hard. At that time, you have to sacrifice playing for a few days so that you can study hard, study nicely for the exams. So one path is where you have to study nicely. Another path is I can skip on my studies and I can go and play all day or watch TV. So one path is which is giving you happiness, immediate happiness, right? One path may be giving you immediate happiness, but another path is which is leading you to your goal. So what should one do? In that situation, what will you pick?
To study hard.
To study hard, even though it may be uncomfortable, right, for some time, but one need to study hard that time. Tolerate that, okay, I can sacrifice for playing or watching TV or doing any other sort of enjoyment. For time being, I can study hard so I can fulfill my goal. So that is what is Krishna is telling. One should tolerate this happiness and distress and move on, no matter if there are some temporary happinesses or temporary pains in this world. And the fruit of tolerance is very wonderful. That brings the peace in life if one is able to tolerate all these situations.
Yeah. And also I want to tell you something else, that when my baby likes to walk, and once we have to come back from walking, she still wants to go more, and then she keeps saying like, I want to go more, I want to go more, and she starts to cry.
Yeah, because as I said, we all want to continue to enjoy. We don't want to stop our enjoyment. Okay, anybody else has any question? Any other question, or we will continue further? Okay, so if no question, I'm going to continue the next verse, where now Krishna is further describing about the soul. He is telling many different qualities of the soul. So far we just discussed one main quality, right? The soul, it moves on to another body at the time of death. For the soul, there is no death. When the body dies, soul continues. That is called reincarnation. So what are the other few characteristics of the soul? Few qualities of the soul. So first of all, the soul is very, very small in size. So everything in this material world, we can measure something, right? Scientists can even measure the size of the atom. We have so many different instruments to measure all different things. Now students use some scale, measuring scale, to measure up to the level of millimeter or even micrometer. And then we can measure the weight of something, if it's how many kgs or how many pounds that object is. So we have different instruments to measure different things. But there is no instrument which can measure the soul. The soul is so small in size. And Krishna gives a comparison, how small, how tiny the soul is. Anybody knows the size of the soul? Have you heard the description? Okay, I see one hand raised, Neha Maheshwari. Yes, Neha.
The soul is so small that like it is 10,000 times smaller than the tip of your hair.
Yeah, very nice. So the size of the soul, you know how it is described? It says, if you take the tip of your hair, not the length of your hair. Okay, if I pluck one hair from my head, we are not talking about the length of the hair. So you see the tip of the hair, which is a small round tip, right? So it says, if somebody take the tip of the hair. Now, first of all, how much is the tip of the hair? Nobody can measure. What portion is considered as the tip of the hair? That little round dot on the one edge of the hair. So if somebody consider that one and split that by 100 times, can somebody cut that little tiny tip of the hair into 100 pieces? And Krishna further says, now take one portion, right? After cutting it in 100 pieces, take one portion and further cut it into 100 pieces. So that is like the size of the soul. So 1/10,000 time of the tip of the hair. The soul is that small. So nobody can see the soul with their eyes. We cannot see the soul with our eyes because our eyes have some limitations. We cannot see everything with our eyes. How many of you agree? You cannot see everything with your eyes. Or is there anybody who think I can see everything? Because one example I will give you is, say you are looking at your hand. Okay, put your hand in front of you. So you can see your hand. Now keep moving that hand closer and closer and closer and closer and closer to your eyes. And one point comes when your eyes are blocked with your hands. You cannot see your own hand, right? And you cannot see the eyelids of your own eyes, eyebrows, with your own eyes. Can you see your own eyebrows? rather than looking into the mirror? No, we cannot. Same way, we cannot see beyond the wall. If there is a wall in front of you, you cannot see what is on the other side of the wall. So we cannot see everything through our eyes. And what to speak of seeing the soul? The soul is so small in size that we cannot see the soul. So it is 1/10,000th of the tip of the hair. So that is how Krishna is describing the soul. Sometimes people claim, can you show me the soul? Then I will believe in the existence of soul. But one should understand, we cannot see the soul through our eyes or through any other instrument. Even you bring the microscope, still you cannot see the soul. And the soul, another quality of the soul is indestructible. Avinashi. So what does it mean? We cannot destroy the soul by any external efforts. So later on, Krishna will tell few other qualities of the soul. One of them is that soul is indestructible, that it cannot be destroyed by any weapon. It cannot be cut into pieces. It's not that I will throw a missile or a bomb and I can destroy the soul also. Why Krishna is telling this? Because Arjuna was thinking that you are telling me the body is dying, but the soul does not die, and soul is living inside this body, but I am going to shoot so many arrows, right, on my another opponents. What if some of the arrow pierces through the body and inside the body it hurts the soul also? What if the soul is also cut into pieces or it's destroyed? So that's why Krishna is telling, don't worry, soul is too small. No weapon can cut the soul. No fire can burn the soul. No wind can wither the soul. No water can moisten the soul. Because Arjuna was going to use all different type of weapon, right? He had the Agni weapon also. He had the Vayu Astra also. He had the rain weapon also. And he had the wind weapon also. So he had all sort of weapons. And he was thinking, what if the soul also gets hurt by any of my weapons? And Krishna is telling, don't worry. The soul is indestructible, avinashi. It cannot be cut into pieces by any weapon. It cannot be burned by fire. It cannot be moistened by water. Or it cannot be withered by the wind. So that is the characteristic of the soul. And I'm going to stop here and see if somebody has any questions or any discussion points. I see 2 hands raised. Shlok and Mihika.
Yes, so my question is that if the soul is indestructible, then the soul is always there in the body. Then doesn't mean that the soul when a person dies, the soul goes out into the body and then goes into a new body in someone's womb.
Yes. So when the body dies, right, at that time the soul is taken out from that body and it is put into its next destination. And the next destination is again depends on that one person's karma, what type of body he is going to get next. Either he is going to get another human form of life, or he is going to become a animal or a tree or a bird or a beast or a aquatic or even any Devi Devata. So it depends on his activities, what type of activities he has done. Based on that, he will be put into another body. And the new body is again, for getting a new body, one has to enter into the womb of the mother. Even if it's an animal, animal also take birth through the womb of another animal, right? Another animal, she animal. So they have to enter into another womb.
Okay. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Any other question? Mihika?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So my question is that if the soul is so tiny, then if the Paramatma is in the soul, inside the soul, is that even more smaller than the soul?
Yeah. So Paramatma is not inside the soul. Paramatma is alongside of the soul. So Paramatma is also sitting next to soul, not inside the soul. So he is like a constant companion of the individual soul. Like there are two birds in the tree. So both birds are sitting on the branch of a tree. So one bird is the Atma and the another bird is like the Paramatma. So both are sitting side by side in the body. So Paramatma is always accompanying the soul wherever the soul goes. Now Paramatma is in our heart along the soul. But when the soul leaves this body, Paramatma also accompanies the soul and goes with the soul to its next destination. So he's like the best friend who never leaves our company.
So would the Paramatma be the same size as the soul?
Yeah, one can see Paramatma is also as the same size. Nobody can see the Paramatma also in the heart.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Any other question? Okay, so if no more question, I think we'll stop here.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much for wonderful explanation of Bhagavad Gita verses. And I would like all of you to thank Prabhuji by saying loudly Hari Bol. So you can unmute yourself and say Hari Bol. Thank Prabhuji.
Hari Bol. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Haribol. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna Prabhuji. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare
Hare Krishna, everyone.